What is up, digital world? It is your special connect here, Justin. Very excited to be sharing with you my first episode in my first series of my special connects. Special connects was a section I put on my website because I wanted to share with the world people who are my special connects. People that I find are incredible human beings, and beyond just being incredible human beings, I'm trying to find people who have followed what's meaningful to them. People who have found meaningful activities that get them by each day, and those who've actually used it to turn it into a career, a profession, and a lifestyle. So when I was developing this site, the first person that came to mind was my buddy Elon. Elon I've known for over 25 years. He's been a really good friend to me for a very long time. We met I was in 7th grade, and we met in camp. And at first, he was in a bunk a little bit younger than me, but we always hung out with similar crowds. And then the older we got, the closer and closer we got. Elon has always been a super funny dude, but beyond just being a super funny dude, he's always been a really special connect to me. He's one of those people in life who always check in to see if you're doing okay. It doesn't matter how much years go by. Elon was there for me for really hard times in my life as well as really fun times. And so why I invited Elon as my first had to do with the fact that he, in his nighttime and not in his day gig, but he has followed his passion of being a comedian. So Elon has always liked to make people laugh, and because of that, it triggered him into wanting to become a comedian and making more people on this planet laugh. And there is nothing better in this world than laughter, for sure. It is the best therapy sometimes. So Elon was the winner of season 3 of New York's Got Talent, and because of that, he was able to headline on Caroline's on Broadway with his own show, which was really great. I got to check it out myself. He's also had some success on TV. He was at Axis's TV Gotham Comedy Live special. He even wrote a joke on the roast of Alec Baldwin. And Elon has also seen a lot of success as a runner-up in the NBC's Universal's Cozy TV Comedy Search. He was also the featured headliner for Dennis Miller and Demetri Martin. So my dude has been everywhere, and he's really making moves in the comedy world. I cannot stress how proud I am of my buddy, and I want you guys to check him out a little bit too. So here's a clip of some of his stuff. I hope you enjoy it. Check it out.
So my name is Elon, and that's an unusual name, so people always misspell it and mispronounce it. And that always gives me trouble when I go to places like Starbucks. Because at Starbucks, you've got to give them your name when you order a drink, and they always screw it up. So I try to help them out. You know, the guy at the register asks for my name. I'll spell it for him. I'll say it's E-L-O-N. 4 letters, simple enough. Until I got my cup back, there were 14 letters written on it. And I realized that guy didn't think I was saying the letters E-L-O-N. He thought E-L-O-N is how I pronounce my name. E-L-O-N. Like I'm a Norwegian pop star. What kind of name is E-L-O-N? But I gotta give credit to this guy. I admire the confidence that he had in his own abilities. Because this guy heard the name E-L-O-N, but he didn't ask me to repeat it, didn't ask me to spell it out. He was just like, E-L-O-N? I got that. Let's see. I-L-L, 4 Y's in a row. Circle with a line through it. Backwards N. Hashtag blessed. Nailed it. But even if the first guy can spell Elon correctly, I still have to deal with the next person who has to read that name out loud in order for me to get my drink. And that's like a whole other problem. Because when I go to Starbucks, I am there to get my favorite drink in the world, the venti mocha frappuccino with whipped cream and a hazelnut drizzle. The girliest drink on the menu. So under normal circumstances, it's a little embarrassing to be seen with that drink. But it's extremely embarrassing when I have to pick up my girly drink from the guy calling out, Ellen? Ellen? I got a mocha frappuccino for some lady named Ellen. But the worst part of the whole thing is when I go to get that drink, and I look at the faces of the people around me because they're all like this. As if they're thinking, yeah, that could be a woman. Lesbian haircut, girlish arms, definitely a chick.
So, as you can see, my dude Elon is really funny, and I was really excited to interview him because it was just a really cool capture of our friendship and another really great way to share with the world how important it is to engage in meaningful activities and what can come of it. And I'm so proud of Elon. I really admire him, especially for having the courage to get out there and make people laugh. It is really such a blessing in this world. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce you to my buddy, Elon, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Check it out. If you like what you see, please subscribe. You can click on the button below. Do whatever you have to do just so you can get informed with what we are throwing down here, all right? Enjoy the video. Take care. So what is up, digital world? It's your special connect here, Justin, connecting to you today with my special connect, Elon Altman. What's up, Elon? Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate having you here. So I want the world to hear your story a little bit. So what do you do to occupy your day right now so far?
Well, what I do in my day is I work a normal job like anyone else, and at night I'm a stand-up comedian.
Nice. Well, what's your day gig? What do you do as a day job?
So my day job is I'm the senior economist of a consulting firm that works with clients in the music industry, and what we do is we do valuations of music royalties.
What does that mean?
That means, like, okay, let's say you're the Beatles. Let's say you're one of the remaining Beatles, and you want to maybe sell the rights to your music catalog. This is a bad example because I think Michael Jackson owns their catalog, so that already happened.
Okay.
But let's say you're the Rolling Stones and you want to sell the rights to the songwriting royalties to your back catalog of hundreds of songs that generate millions of dollars. What we do is we put a value on that. We do a projection of like the next 15 years of earnings and then in perpetuity. And then if any private equity firm wants to purchase this asset, they have an idea of what the market value is.
Wow. Sounds super hysterical.
It's so funny.
So cool. And so you also said that you were a comedian. And this is really one of the reasons why I invited Elon on. Not only because he's a really good friend of mine and we've known each other for a very long time, as we discuss every time we see each other.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm so proud of with Elon and that I admire about him is that he has followed one of his passions, which is making people laugh, or at least trying to make people laugh. And he's done it as a comedian. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you got into comedy?
Yeah, well, we've known each other for a long time, like you said, and I always liked to be like the funny kid. Especially when I felt comfortable around a group of people. So if it was with like you and our other friends, like I could be myself and be funny. Other times I was actually really shy, like in school and high school, very shy kid.
Okay.
But I always liked still being funny, watching funny things, writing jokes. And then when I was a sophomore in college, I always wanted to do stand-up, but I was terrified. Public speaking for me was like the scariest thing in the world.
Interesting. Okay.
Because anytime I had to give a speech in class, any kind of presentation, I could just feel that I was like, my body was shaking. I knew my face was flushed. I was red. I was like, everyone can tell that I'm the most nervous person in the world. And I just was terrified. I was like, it was never an option that I would ever be able to do this on stage because I was so scared.
So interesting that you used the word never, but go on.
Yeah, it was like people say, it's like the biggest fear they have besides death is public speaking, and I was definitely like in that group. But in college we had to take sophomore year a class of it was called communications, right? So it was a public speaking course.
Okay.
And you had to do 6 speeches throughout the semester, and you had to they recorded them on VHS. That's how old I am.
VHS, Jesus
That's
Christ.
right.
You're
So they recorded so they recorded our speeches, and I remember the first one, it was just like a minute long, like just an intro to yourself, whatever, and I tried to make it a little bit funny, but that wasn't the point.
But did you do it in front of people, or was it just
in front of the class? So
okay.
it was a section of, let's say, maybe 15 or 20 kids. So so I did my speech. I was terrified. I felt like I was shaking. It was terrible. But whatever. I got a couple laughs. A couple funny things. I thought. If I remember, it was a speech we had to introduce ourselves, and I made this whole thing up that I was like a secret agent. That was so stupid. I don't know. Okay. I was like, this will go over well with that cute girl over there. She'll like this.
Did she?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, obviously not.
Yeah.
If you didn't.
Nothing happened.
Right. Okay. It's all good.
So anyway, so then they record it and they give you the tape and you have to like, watch it and then like do a self-critique. Plus everyone else writes critiques of you as well and you got to read their things, which is also like awful to hear.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I watched my tape because I owned a VHS player because this was 2002 or whatever, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like I'm nervous, obviously, but like it doesn't show outwardly. Actually, like my face is not red like I thought it was, and you can't tell that my arms are shaking so much. Like unless I'm holding a piece of paper, then you can see it like like a leaf.
Well, you know what's interesting, and I want to stop you just really quick, is that this is something that I lecture and talk about is about like perception, So in your mind before all of this, you were like, everyone notices this, I look like such a fool. And then when you see it, you're like, yeah, that really wasn't what it was like. So it's very interesting that you got confidence from seeing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then so when did you make like your first jump into trying to go on a stage in front of people?
So what
did I cut the story off short?
Well, no. The rest of the story is that then after that, every speech I did for that class, there were 6 of them. I just had to always make them funny, and I got very creative with them. And the final one was kind of like you could do whatever you want, and I was like, I want to make this like a weekend update, like on SNL.
Oh, cool.
And so they had like a projector, an overhead projector in class, so I made up these like slides, so I could
with headlines and stuff.
No, just make the photo of So it was like there was a joke about like I think there was some baseball player who had a steroid scandal, so I had a picture of him with like needles, whatever it was. To go with the joke, like so, I would change the slide at the right moment.
Okay,
I was really into needles at this time.
Listen, who wasn't back then?
It
right?
was it was a thing. And so that one also was like great, and everyone's feedback was like, man, you should be like on SNL, you're so funny, and so I had a lot of confidence. And around this time, also, a friend of mine, we were both talking about how he always wanted to do stand up, and he was like, and he lived in Canada. He was like, I'm gonna come to New York City in the summer. Maybe we should like let's set a goal. Like we both do stand up. By like mid-July or something like that.
Okay.
Like, just get up and do an open mic or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'll aim for that. So I spent like 2 months kind of just trying to write like what would be a good like 5-minute set, And,
okay.
And then like July 23rd came or whatever, and like I went to the comedy club to do a
Which
thing.
comedy club?
I was at New York Comedy Club.
Okay. That's where you got to start.
Which now is actually a really, really good club. Back then...
Well, it's because you were there. That's like where you got your start.
Yeah, I made the place. I made the place. Before me, forget about it.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. It was a very scary place at the time, and just in general, it was like it wasn't great. And so the day that I went was it was to do an open mic, and an open mic in the city is different than an open mic in a lot of other places in the country. Usually in smaller towns, open mics will have actual real audience people who will come to like see people do their talents,
Okay.
In New York City, it's just other comedians waiting for their turn to go on stage.
They go on stage and
so they're not laughing. They're very cold. It's very scary. So when I signed up, I was like 24th on the list, and I'm sitting there watching, and there's this one comic, this big, fat, bearded guy whose name was Angry Bob.
Okay.
This is his whole persona. I'm not making fun of him by his look. This is his persona. He's a big, brash guy, and he was just like heckling people and just being himself, which they all knew him, so they was like, oh, that's Angry Bob. But for me, I was like, oh my god, this is terrifying. I want to get laughs, and this guy is ripping people apart. And also, this thing was going on for so long. I was sitting there for like 2 hours waiting for my time, and I had to actually go meet somebody else at like 7 o'clock. So I went to the front of the club, and I was like, can I have my $3 back? They had
you had to pay $3.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to make this. Like, I have to go somewhere. I was like,
I love that you asked for the refund.
I wanted that money back.
Listen, hey, principal. I get it.
And the guy at the podium, who's a comic who I became very good friends with later on, but it's the first time I ever met him, he was like, if it's your first time, like what you could also do is if you just bring 5 friends, we do these shows like on Thursday nights. They're called bringer shows. If you bring 5 people, you can be on stage, and it actually has like a real audience.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, I'll just do that. Like, that's way better than an open mic, because like these people are all cold-hearted assholes.
Right.
So I went back like 2 days later. I brought 5 friends, whatever. Again, terrified out of my mind, completely scared. Like, forget about how I felt better about how I was perceived. It's still on the inside. I was so nervous because here I was just trying to do these jokes for the first time in front of people.
And how old were you?
I was 19 at this time.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
So really that young?
Yeah, because I was in the middle of, so this is right after that semester of college when I finally felt like, okay, I could talk in front of people.
Wow, I didn't know you even started when you were 19.
Yeah, so this is 2003, so I was like, I was super young. So I got up, I did my thing, I got a good amount of laughs actually, and I got really great feedback from like a couple of audience members who I didn't know, were just like, wow, you're so funny, and you gotta remember, and you know me at this time, and I was 19, I looked like I was maybe like 13.
Basically.
So I looked like so young. So that also added to it. Like some of the things I was saying, although they weren't like that risque, were very shocking to hear from like such a young-looking person.
Yeah.
So that helped with the whole like, well, this is funny, and he wrote some good jokes too. And so this guy who like taught one of the comedy classes there at that club, this comedian named Chris Murphy, he was like, hey, that was really funny. I can't believe that was the first time.
No relation to Eddie Murphy?
No, a tall white Irish guy.
You never know.
Yeah.
But go on.
Maybe in makeup.
Yeah, right.
He was like, I teach the comedy class. Like, well, I want you to come by the class like next week and like do your set for my students. And I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Like this guy likes me. I'm like, so I did that. I did a couple more shows that summer and actually had like a couple agents who were like in the audience be like, hey, man, you're great. Because I was so young, I was so marketable to them. Like, wow, he's got a lot of potential.
Until they found out how old you were, and then they were
like, oh, 19, to the curve. Forget about this guy. Grandma.
It's a gymnast, right?
Yeah. Yeah. His bones aren't growing anymore. Right? And then I went back to school. So then I spent a few years where I was like, I'm in college. There's not a lot of stand-up at Cornell University, so
it's not a very
it's not a funny place.
Beautiful location, beautiful. If you've never
nice.
been to Cornell, it's a beautiful campus. For
but not great for a comedy scene. So whenever I come back, I would do another bringer show. I did a few of those, and I felt like, okay, when I graduate, maybe I'll like really be able to move into this full time and everything. But then right when I graduated, I got the job, which I'm at now.
Right.
Still.
Wow.
I've been at the same job for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was still doing these bringer shows here and there, but I never was like, I was always still waiting for like, when will another agent like come and discover me and like take me to that next level?
So like you talk about these different agents having interest in you. Did you ever like take them up on the offer? What were they offering?
Yeah, well, like one of them, he worked for like a pretty big agency, and he was like, a lot of our clients like are guests on this show, Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn, which was on it was on Comedy Central like right after the Daily Show back in that time. And he was like, I'll come to a taping, like I'll introduce you to these guys, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. But I think I had to get back to school. I was like, oh, I'm going back to college.
You always have somewhere else to be.
It was like right at the end of the semester. I was like, oh crap, I can't do it. But I stayed in touch with him a little bit. But it was like kind of hard because I wasn't there enough. Like they need someone who's like dedicated. And I was always like, well, I got college, whatever. Then this other guy who he was like, I see a lot of potential in you as a writer. He's like, you should like, he's like, write a screenplay. Like I'll move out to LA. That's where you should be. It's like writing TV or writing movies.
Okay.
And I was like,
which is so interesting because you would think you live in New York that there would be a space for that too in New York City. Like most people will tell you around the world, come to New York City for these things. And anyway, but go on, yeah.
Right, but there's like so much more of it in LA. That's the thing. Well, So. But again, I was like, well, but I'm in college, so like I was like, maybe when I graduate, like we'll keep in touch, whatever. But I think he got out of the industry or something.
Okay.
And like honestly, I got very like, I'm a very lazy person, like by nature. I procrastinate a lot. I'm lazy, and so once I graduated and I got my job, all of a sudden I'm waking up at like 7:30 every morning. Then I get home and it's like I'm not gonna go out to find some open mic or whatever. And I was still thinking that like the path I was going on was still okay. That I would just get discovered by doing these random bringer shows.
Right.
Which, in hindsight, was like not a good path. It's okay in terms of like getting me to like get comfortable doing stand-up, but not for making it like a career path.
So what was like your first big break? Like where did you get your first big break from?
So my first big break would be, fast forward now like 9 years later maybe.
Okay, all right.
So maybe it's like 2012.
Okay.
And another mutual friend of ours, Jared Wilder.
Oh, Jared, yeah.
So
shout out Jared. Jared,
what up, Jared? So he was doing comedy in the city, and he started this show called like Laugh in a Draft. It was just like a show at a bar.
Okay.
But and when I saw he was doing that, I was like, oh, I'd love to like do a spot. He's like, yeah, sure. And he like booked me on the first one or the second one that he had done. And I got to meet like other people in comedy because I only knew very few people at this point. And now we're talking about like. This is 9 years that I've been in comedy, but I was only doing these random bringer shows here and there. So the people that I knew were nobody, like, that could help me in the industry.
Okay.
I was like on the outside without realizing that I was on the outside. I was on my own little bubble.
Yeah.
Oh, this is it. We're all comedians, but we're all dabbling. Okay. That's what we were. But doing Jared's show, and then he started putting on regularly. Like, it was like a monthly kind of show. I would do it almost every month. That got me into the habit of at least like writing new material more frequently and getting on stage more often and meeting new people in comedy who maybe ran shows or whatever it was, and it just got me in a habit of like getting out of the house more often for comedy.
So cool.
So I started feeling, okay, I'm doing it monthly now. This is something. I'm making something of myself with this. And then I started doing. There was a show that they had at Broadway Comedy Club. It was called The Industry Room. It was another bringer show, but this one actually had like they were like the owner of the club will come watch you and give you feedback, and maybe he'll even like move you on to become a regular at the club.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is what I need. So I did my show. I did my set that night, and talked to the owner afterwards, and he was like, you're very funny, but like you need more experience. He's like, how often are you getting on stage? And I was like, oh, I'm getting on a lot, like once a month. And he's like, no, it's got to be like, you got to be on stage every night of the week. And I was like, yeah, but how do I do that if you're not going to give me spots?
Right.
I was like, you understand the problem here? Like, you
It
need
sounds
to...
like it sounds like anything in business. You know, like when they tell you like you need all this experience before you could apply to like business school, right? Isn't that how?
Yeah, it's like that, or it's like any job. But they're like, yeah, this is an entry level position. You need 4 years of experience. Well,
right.
how am I going to do that? So, but what was nice is he said, listen, we have an intern program here. What you'll do is if you help seat people like once a week at a show, you get a 5-minute spot once a week.
That's awesome.
And I was like, and part of me wanted to be like, I'm not going to work for free. Like, I'm at this point, I'm like, I'm older now. I'm like, I'm 29 years old, and this is like a waste of time. But I was like, all right, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So I started doing that, and so I'm doing that like every week at New York Comedy Club, which he owns also. Back at the place where I had started many years earlier. And now I got to actually know real comedians, because now every night I'm helping to seat people. That's easy. It's like, go there, whatever. There's only like 8 people that would show up at these shows anyway.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, just take the front row. Yeah. That's good. Okay. And now I just stand in the back of the room and watch these amazing comedians who now are becoming some of the biggest comics in New York and in the country. Guys like Mark Normand and Sam Morrill and Ricky Velez, who are like becoming very well known in comedy and then become very mainstream. I'm just watching them kind of work on it every night, and it's really inspiring. Like, wow, these guys are great. And I realized what I thought I knew about the comedy scene. I knew nothing. Like, I didn't know anybody that was working in the scene. I didn't know anything about like what it takes to really be a comedian.
So your internship there kind of...
The internship definitely got me started. And so now I'm getting a spot once a week, and not to mention like other nights where they're like, oh, so-and-so didn't show up, can you just go on stage?
Yeah, that's so cool.
In big moments. And what was interesting was that because a lot of people who intern will be people who are really starting out, like very beginner comics. Whereas I had, in a way, like 9 years of experience.
Without knowing.
Right, so I was always writing new jokes, even though I'd only get to use them like every few months when I would do a show. Like I had a good amount of material. Some of it was not bad. I still stand by some of that early material.
We'll see how the shelf life looks.
Yeah. It's holding up pretty good. So like when I would get these opportunities, I would actually do pretty well. So that was nice. Like so people saw that I was like pretty funny, and they booked me on like other little shows here and there, little like bar shows, whatever. And then a year later, the internship ended because the owner of the club sold it to the people who are now the current owners.
Okay.
Who I knew as well, but they just didn't do the intern program. So now I was like, oh no, I'm out of my feet. What am I gonna do? But right at that same time, I got passed at a club called the Comic Strip. And by the way, passed means that you do an audition and you get passed into the regular rotation.
Oh, cool.
So it's a good thing. It sounds like I got passed up. But passed in comedy is a very important thing.
Okay.
And so I got passed to do as a late night comedian. What that means is at the end of the regular show, they let a few comedians go up if the audience wants to stick around. And you do like 5 minutes in front of these people.
Oh, okay.
And so it's almost like an open mic in that you're kind of just doing a short 5-minute set. It might be new stuff that you're just working on. But you're doing it, what's different from an open mic, you're doing it in front of the real audience that was there for the main part of the show.
Nice. Okay.
And so that's hugely important for your exposure
right?
and for getting more experience of like how these jokes are being received and what you can do to change them and everything like that. And it helps you meet, again, more comedians. The scene is so big, but every time you go to a new club, you realize that there's like more and more and more people that you didn't realize were doing this.
That's so crazy, man.
So I started doing that now, and that was amazing. And the owner of that club, who like runs the late night program, he used to be Eddie Murphy's manager. So,
really?
So he'll take you into his office and tell you all these old stories about like, oh yeah, I'm delirious. There's me in the corner. I'm over there, and like he told me this and this happened, and so you feel like all of a sudden like you're getting close to like the real deal. Like it's like people all of a sudden who like have touched like the highest level of this industry.
And how far do you what's your trajectory? Like where do you want to go with this? Is that a stupid question? Because, I mean, I don't know. Some people may want to go out and just to do it because they enjoy doing it, or you might want celebrity, you might want a little bit of in-between.
Yeah, I'd say I'm kind of almost like the in-between sort of thing. Like, I want to get to the height of stand-up comedy. I want to be, regarded amongst my peers and amongst anyone who sees me in the audience is like, wow, that guy was amazing. He's one of the best. Good. Because I think that's very rewarding to me is having people recognize, like, your talents and the hard work that you're putting in. In a way, it's like, and then to get there, you kind of need to become a certain level of famous, of course, right? But I don't know, like the heights of celebrity, the odds of this ever happening are so slim. But you see, like,
don't say that about yourself.
But you see the life that some of these celebrities have, and like, there's no privacy and all that. And I like to be a quiet person in my spare time. I sit at home and watch TV. I don't want to be like everyone's like, oh, there's that guy. You know?
Yeah.
So, like, little things like that, like, I'm not craving fame like that. I just want to be, at least within my circles, to be known, like, oh, man, like, that guy's one of the best.
You want to be respected.
And I want to be successful. Yeah, respected. I want to be successful, like, you know, monetarily, of course, it's important.
Now, let me ask you this. Would this be a full-time thing for you ever? Is that what the goal might be?
Yeah, and that's a goal. That's along the path. That wouldn't be the end goal, but that would be somewhere in the middle before I reach whatever the end goal is to be able to make enough money that I can say that I don't need to do the day job, which I like a lot, but at some point, you know, if I'm not balancing both, then it takes the comedy to an even higher level.
Yeah. So, you know, with your comedy, right, and you talked about, a little bit, you mentioned about how it's helped you face some of your own fears and helps boost your confidence. What other reasons do you do comedy for? Like, what is it that is so meaningful about laughter and making people laugh to you, like in your own words?
I don't know. I guess it's just like making people laugh is just such a... First of all, there's like this some kind of magic about it. Like the fact that words can spontaneously cause a stranger to like laugh without thinking of it. They're not doing it out of pity, like, oh, ha ha ha.
Right.
You know, like if you're in a conversation and you know someone makes a corny joke, you're like, yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. But like
true laughter.
Yeah, that true, like, where you know, like, this combination of words is going to somehow make this reaction happen. That is insane. Like, that can even be done, and it's kind of cool to be able to craft that. So, like, there's a lot of rewarding just knowing that you can do this to people. It's kind of fun. And then it makes people happy. And I always feel like, I don't know, you make other people happy, it makes you happy, because then everyone's just in a good mood. Like, I'm someone who doesn't like conflict. I don't like having, like, you know, tough conversations about, like, like all the difficult things in the world and all that kind of... I just want to, like, let's all just, like, have a good time. Like, let's just... We don't have to deal with that stuff now. Like, we're all just in a room together. Like, let's just enjoy ourselves, right?
It's definitely probably the best formula in this world for making people feel better, no matter where you're at. You know, whether it's grief, whether it's dealing with what is happening in our planet and in our world, and we're not getting into politics or anything here. But you're right, and so I find it interesting that few people decide to take on a role of like kind of being in charge of making people laugh a little bit. I think that's such a cool responsibility. And there's also, you know, when you talk about comedians and stuff, what I always find interesting, because I also know you personally, and I know from what I know of you, and I've known you for a long time, and you're a consistent person. You've never really changed who you were, like, as a person authentically. You've always been like a happy person. And what's interesting is that you hear often that comedians have this dark side, or like a lot of them are these tormented kinds of souls.
Yeah.
And so what's your experience with that? Like, do you find that it's harder to get material because you're not as tormented, or are you and I just don't know and you like hide?
Yeah, it's always funny when people are like, oh, comedians are all like tormented. It's kind of like people say like, oh, strippers, they're all from like broken homes. It's like I'm sure there's some that are just from a great home. And like,
right.
I'm a generally very happy person and like don't have like a weird like, you know, dark past or anything like that. So like, some people just like to make people laugh. And yeah, there are, look, I know a lot of comedians. There are some who do have a lot of struggles in their past and or presently are dealing with depression. That's a big problem in comedy, actually. Like, and maybe it's like in that moment when you're on stage, you're making people laugh and makes you feel good, but that feeling kind of goes away. It's almost like a drug, where maybe when you're doing it, you feel great, but then there's like a come down, and then you're like, you know. And
then you chase it.
Yeah, and so that's, you know, it's sad when you see people like Robin Williams, like, you know, going like, will kill themselves, and you're like, man, like that guy had everything. He was so funny, he made people so happy.
He's such a genius.
But you don't realize they have, you know, there's other things going on, right? But yeah, for me, it's always just, and there's other comics like me who have pretty stable lives and are fun, normal people, and so it's not a prerequisite that you have to have like some kind of darkness, and you don't need to be able to draw on that for material. Like I feel like that's sad if the only way you can make something funny is if you've had like something awful happen. Like, yeah, I lost my foot in a terrible accident, so but now I'm a good comedian. So.
But I think also in hindsight, though, I think it's actually so powerful that a human being can take their misfortune and put it in a light that makes it so that it's easy enough to laugh about it so that you can move on. Because I think, like, in hindsight in life, we all have to just move on, whether it's from good moments in life or bad. So it's pretty interesting. What do you find was the most meaningful experience you had as a comic?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I've had a lot of good moments that I've been very proud of.
Okay. Give me one. One works.
Okay, so one thing that I did that I was very proud of, well, first I did a thing on TV, and this was also pretty early on. This was in 2015, so it's still only where we left off the story was maybe like 2014.
Okay. So we've jumped back into the timeline.
So well, what I'm saying is like it was still fairly early in like me kind of getting when I got into comedy like on a very full time kind of basis. This was fairly early, and I got this opportunity to do this TV show called Gotham Comedy Live. Mm-hmm. Which was aired live on cable. It wasn't like a taped thing where they could edit out anything. It was like literally what you're doing right then is being aired across the country, and it was a big leap of faith. And I did very well in a very stressful situation, and it really helped validate for me that what I was doing was like working out. And so, all of a sudden I had like a TV credit. That's an awesome thing, and that opened some more doors for me in comedy. That and that was a really nice thing. But other moments that were important to me were I got to open up for a couple comedians at like this big theater, which was amazing. Like Dimitri Martin, who's one of my favorite comedians.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is really funny.
Yeah, so like I always looked up to him. Like, wow, this guy's such a great joke writer.
He had a show. Didn't he have a show?
He had a show on Comedy Central for a couple of years. Yeah, he's had like a lot of different things.
That's some funny stuff. He's a funny.
Yeah, he's so funny and so like out of the box. And like I love Mitch Hedberg is one of my favorite comics of all time. And Dimitri to me was always like very much like Mitch Hedberg.
Okay.
Like these really quirky, short, like one-liner kind of jokes. Right. And you're like, whoa, how does this person think this way? And so through a friend who actually I met through doing those shows for Jared, which kind of circles back to those shows that I was doing and like how meeting people helped so much. So this friend, his wife worked at this theater in New Jersey. It's a big theater, 2,000-seat theater.
Okay.
And they needed an opener for Dimitri Martin. And he was like, oh, well, what about Alon? So I get a call from him. Do I want to open for Dimitri Martin? I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
no, absolutely not.
So it's crazy. So I did this thing, and it went really well, and I met him, and he was great, and he was so nice, and we hung out afterwards. And that was really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I'm meeting like a hero of mine. And then like a month later, they called me again. They're like, "Hey, can you open for Dennis Miller? He's coming to the theater."
Wow!
And I was like, "Holy crap, Dennis Miller!" Now we've been like even more famous and more iconic.
That's
And they want to do like a half-hour opening for him, which is like a ton of time when you're just like when no one's there to see you.
Right.
And that also was great. So those moments like that, those kind of things that happen where you get these great opportunities to work with great comedians or in like big situations. Are just so rewarding because you're like, man, all the hard work and like I'm in this amazing place right now that like
that's so cool, man.
That I never thought that comedy would bring me to things like this, and yet in the long run, I'm hoping that these are just going to be like little, very minor milestones.
Yeah. What do you find is the toughest moment about following this passion of yours, like this meaningful activity? Like, what is hard about doing comedy all the time, or is there nothing really too hard? Like in your mind about it.
The hardest part, it isn't the being on stage part, that's the fun part of it. The hardest part is just all the stuff behind the scenes, which is trying to get booked on shows.
Okay.
It takes a lot of, asking over and over and being pushy and being annoying and then hoping you're not being too annoying that people don't like you because it's like,
too annoying.
You have to promote yourself. It's tough. It's like social media. It's like, I have to, on Facebook, I have to always be posting about shows that I'm doing. And I know that maybe that seems like annoying and like, oh, look at me, I'm doing this now, I'm doing that now. But like, if you don't do that.
Well, I'm happy to see it.
Thank you.
I am. I honestly, it makes me happy.
But it's one of those things where like, it goes against me. I hate being like a self-promoting kind of person. But like, if I don't do that, then people are like, oh, are you still doing comedy? Like, what are you up to? But if you do that, then people are like, oh, he's busy, he's doing good stuff. Like, we gotta get him on our show too. And like, it steamrolls and becomes like, it's really important.
It's true. Like, just to, because it's funny because we share that, like I'm not a self-promoter myself. Like, I like attention, but I don't really care how like success, I don't want like it all on me. And so I don't want to be like, here, look at me, follow me, link, subscribe. Like that stuff gets irritating. It's like, do it if you want, if you don't, okay, but in your line of like following being a comedian and getting to the top, you do have to promote yourself a lot. So, okay.
Yeah, a big part of it. Look, there's a lot of comedians who are amazing who are not getting opportunities when other people are getting opportunities that maybe aren't as seasoned or as good as these comedians are. And the reason they're getting those chances is because they have a big presence on social media.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, they have 100,000 followers. Like, we gotta, book this person or get them onto this thing or whatever.
And there's also a whole behind-the-scenes world of social media too, where they have like systems and programs that give you different followers and things like that. I will never try to do any of that stuff on this platform, but it does help. But it's not because you're an evil person trying to like fake it. But people don't want to just watch a video with 20 views on it. They'd rather see that 2,000 people watched it beforehand. in order to at least give it a chance.
Right,
so
right. Even just to click on it. Yeah, if I see a video on Instagram, it's like has 10,000 views. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What is this?
Right.
But if it has like 6 views, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna even like this video.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to be the one like on this video.
Exactly. It was like that South Park, when I think it's Kyle. He becomes friends with the kid who like no one's friends with.
Yeah.
And then he loses all his friends. So I understand that.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 obviously being the best thing that ever happened to you, 1 being not the best thing that ever happened to you. How would you rate you putting in the effort to becoming a comedian?
I'd give it a 10.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Meeting my wife was also a number 10.
Hi Sarah, how are you?
But yeah, no, it's so fun and so rewarding, and I meet so many interesting people. It's it's amazing to have so many friends. It's hard as an adult to make friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we have friends from childhood. Those are like the closest friends we have. But when you're to make new friends, it's hard. And in comedy, it's like I know there are literally like a dozen places I can go on any night where I know I will see people that I'm friends with.
That's so
because
cool.
They're always at this club or that club, and I don't know who they are because I don't know who's there that night. But like, you pop in and you're like, oh, hey, there's that person. There's that person.
So let me ask you this: if I were to sell you as a product, how would I sell you? Like, what would be like 3 words that you would put attached to your name and label that would sell you?
Funny, genuine, and African American.
Nice. What would your third one be, really? Unless you do have a history there.
Well, I'm not sure. I haven't sent in the 23andMe. We have it. We haven't sent it in yet, so we're.
It's the cradle of civilization, so
yeah,
close to it.
Probably. Okay, funny, genuine, and kind.
Okay, cool. And what advice would you give?
By the way, those are 3 words that might describe me. I don't know if they help us sell me at all. I think people are like, oh, give us the kindest comedian you've got.
Well, no, I meant for you, just selling you as a human being.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's.
I think actually genuine is my biggest selling point as a human being. I like genuine, authentic people, even if they look crazy or off the. At least you're like you and you're being honest. So
yeah.
I think that's a good sell.
Okay, good.
Such bad press. But back to the next question was, what advice would you give somebody who is thinking this might be a route for them? Like, what would you say to somebody that you maybe would have, younger Elon, which you kind of alluded to a little bit about, like knowing the circles, but what would younger 19-year-old Elon just starting, what would he like to have heard that would have helped him?
Yeah, what would have helped would be the advice to get out as much as you can. Like, as hard as it is, try to every night go to a different place, even if you're not performing. Go just hang at the comedy club, introduce yourself to people, just sort of get to know the scene, and go to open mics as much as you can, again, to meet more comedians, to get more experience on stage. And I'll admit, people told me these kind of things when I was a young oh, you gotta get up there more, but I was very like, yeah, I'm pretty good already. So.
Yeah, right? Like,
yeah, I'm
did you watch my stuff on YouTube? There's 7 views.
I've been on stage 7 times, so I think I know what I'm talking about here, buddy. Yeah, but that is...
So expose yourself.
Expose yourself.
But not like appropriate.
Right. Well, sometimes that helps. Anything to get to clicks.
Yeah.
Just get to know other comedians, get that stage experience, and understand... And most important, though, is be funny when you have your opportunities. Okay, a lot of people can network a lot and do open mics a lot, and then someone will eventually put them on a show. But if they stink, then it's not going to last too long.
Yeah.
As much as we might like somebody who is fun to hang out with, if they're not funny, they're not going to be booked on a show.
Well, and can you speak a little bit to how different it actually is, like just regularly being funny? Because I'm pretty hysterical myself, but I'm not necessarily sure that if I had to string together a story to keep people, interested in telling just jokes after jokes, that I would be as, successful as you would be in that regard. So did you find it to be difficult? Or do you find like some people have that difficulty? Like they're really funny when you like hang out with them and then you see them on stage and it's like...
Yeah, there's people that are all different ways. So people that are not funny at all off stage and on stage are like, man, that guy's hilarious. Or vice versa, or they're really funny hanging out or in maybe videos that they make or whatever it is. But when it comes to actual stand-up comedy, it doesn't always translate as well. And I think what it comes down to is understanding sort of the structure of jokes. And look, like there'd be stories that you could tell amongst friends and they'd be so hilarious. Everyone's cracking up. And you do it on stage and it's just not the same. And the reason is like, on stage, you gotta kind of be concise with your words, It's got to have just way more structure to it and easy to follow. And whereas in conversation, there's just so much more flow to it.
Yeah.
It's just different.
And you have more background. Like, you probably have to paint more of a picture if you're setting
Yeah,
up a joke.
right. We all have context with each other. We understand, oh, that's Larry, he's the funny guy, whatever. That classic Larry, his wife, whatever. But, on stage, these people don't know you yet, so you kind of really have to set up, like, here's the context of this joke, in as few words as possible, but to give you guys the picture, and then here's hopefully the funny payoff as soon as possible before you guys lose interest in what I'm trying to say.
So how has this, because you followed this occupation of, laughter and being a comedian, and because it's something you're talented at, you're working to monetize it, or you do monetize it and you're working to make more money off it. Does that part of it ever make it sour to you? Like, do you feel like people expect you now all the time to be funny, and then it like bothers you in your daily life that you kind of feel like people are always waiting for like the punchline maybe for you?
Sometimes, yeah. Like I was doing these shows a couple weeks ago in Atlantic City, and so the night before the shows, I was playing poker, and people at the table, like I told them, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing a show at this other casino. If you guys want to come to the thing,
Advertising, right?
Well, yeah, might as well, right?
Listen,
and then half of them are like, oh, here's a joke you gotta tell. Yeah, we're like, you're not that funny, All these kind of things. They're telling me these awful street jokes. Street jokes are the kind of jokes like, so a man walks into a bar and like, those aren't the kind of jokes a comedian tells on stage.
Right, yeah.
Maybe an old-timey comedian, but not a stand-up comedian. But these people, they're all 80 years old. They don't understand that. So to them, it's just this, and they're always saying things like, oh, I bet you use this all the time in your routine. Are you going to talk about me? Are you going to say... And they don't realize that this is all like, it's like years of preparation and writing and tweaking of words. It's not just like, well, this happened to me last night. I was at the poker table and this lady told me this very racist joke.
Yeah.
So it's like, that happens sometimes, but for people most people are not like that.
Yeah.
They don't expect that you have to be funny when you're off stage.
But so now, like, for instance, you have definitely been out there more. I see you're doing a lot of shows, and you're traveling. You were international, which is super cool. You were in London doing the show. I meant, like, to kind of, like, piggyback on the last question. Do you ever get to a point where you have a deadline to kind of be funny? And then it, like, becomes, like, stressful because you, like, have to work on being fun. I mean, I don't know if, does that make sense?
Well, maybe, yeah, there's, like, certain things where you have to write specifically for this event. So, for example, there are things like, I do these roast battle shows.
Okay.
That's where it's two comedians on stage, and they just insult each other back and forth with the most heinous possible insults that would get you canceled from any other job, but for some reason, like, they're okay for us to swing at each other in this context only. Okay. Which other people don't always understand.
Right.
That we only say this in this context, and otherwise we're very good friends with each other, so don't think that we're awful people. But anyway, for that, you have to write jokes that literally are only going to be used for this one night, because you're just doing it against this one person, and then they're done, because you can't use these jokes in normal stand-up. It'd be crazy.
Unless it's just your mama jokes.
Yeah, then it's okay. You have to be like, are you a mom? Okay, here's the... Yeah.
Quick fire.
Yeah. So for that, those are very stressful always, because you're writing specifically for one thing. So you have a deadline. Okay, I have 2 weeks. I got to write all these jokes. I want to do them well because, first of all, you're getting judged for jokes that you haven't even tried out yet.
Right.
By an audience of people and by 3 like celebrity judges who are there to like. Their job is to tell who won, but also to kind of insult you guys as well.
Okay.
So you're getting insulted by a person on stage, by 3 more famous comedians. The audience might be booing you also. It's all things that do not happen in normal stand-up. So the whole situation is so stressful. But it's fun. It's kind of fun to have like the homework of like knowing you need to write by a certain date. Because otherwise it's like a very, entrepreneurial kind of thing doing stand-up. You're your own boss. You decide what you want to tell on stage. Having these kind of things where you have a specific thing, a specific angle you must take is kind of nice in a way, just to be like, all right, now I got to buckle down and like
be more specific and driven for it.
So those are fun, but they're always more stressful, and like it's like doing stand-up normally now. I don't get stage fright. I don't get too many like butterflies in my stomach for most shows. But for doing like a roast battle, all that stress from like the early days comes back. Yeah. And you're like, oh god, why am I doing this? I'm never doing this again. This is so stupid. I have to try to memorize this stuff. It's all,
Well, that's what I was going to say too. It's pretty impressive, because like you were kind of alluding to the people at the poker table, comedians who are excellent at what they do, when you think of like the Chappelles and people like that. It's just it sounds like if they're just talking to you as if they just came on stage and they just had these things to say to you. But it's so rehearsed, it's like all these different places and lines that you remember. I just think it's like very interesting how you could be natural when you're rehearsed.
Yeah, no, that's what's brilliant about a good comedian, like, or someone like Chappelle, like a great comedian, able to make something seem like he's just sort of off the top of his head, kind of coming up with something, or that it sounds like he's just kind of speaking without real, like where the words aren't all exactly like fleshed out, but he makes it sound so conversational that the crowd feels like, wow, we're hearing like he's never said this before. This is like just for us.
Right.
And he's brilliant. And then after he tells a joke, he'll like slap the mic on his knee and run around because it's so funny that he just thought of this thing. But then if you watch him do that set like every night, you're like, oh, like he literally does these same moves every night.
Yeah.
Which is it's incredible because you don't realize that until you
watch him
like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I had a moment when I was in college. Chappelle came to my college and did a show, and this was back in 2002. This is before I was doing stand-up, and this is before Chappelle's show came out, like the year before. So everyone knew who he was because we knew like Half-Baked and a couple other movies he had been in.
Professor he was in.
Yeah, oh right, and of course, amazing. Women be shop.
Women be
That's true, women do shop.
That was great.
So funny, yeah. Well, that's one of my favorite stand-up moments as a kid. Probably was that.
Honestly, that was like I fell in love with Chappelle the first time I saw that scene.
Yeah,
yeah.
And also remember he was in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah.
So when he was like 19 or 20, which is insane.
He recently actually just won the Mark Twain Award for comedy.
Yeah.
And his show was on PBS recently. It was really interesting.
I didn't see that yet.
You should watch it. It was actually really funny.
Okay. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
But so he came to our college and supposed to do, he's headlining, so he should be doing between 45 and maybe 60 minutes. Maybe he's going to do an hour, tops. And he ends up staying on stage for 2.5 hours, and all of us, it was a big auditorium, and we were all just like enthralled with him so much, and he could like do no wrong. Like he was just seemingly riffing on any topic. He was just doing crazy things. Like he took someone's cell phone and like called his buddy, who happened to be like Neil Brennan, who then became like a pretty well-known comic. That was the guy who co-wrote and co-created Chappelle's show with him.
He's actually hysterical at the award ceremony because I never really saw him before then. But he was hysterical. He really like killed it. But
yeah. So he's like, Chappelle's like, "Hey Neil, guess where I am?" And then like Neil's like, "Oh," and he's like, "I'm sleeping. Stop calling." And like Chappelle like autographs this guy's phone and tosses it back to him. He asks if anyone has weed. People start throwing weed at the stage, and all these kind of things he's doing, which are so like out of the box. And he's like, let's take over the library. Let's all just leave here and take over the school library. And we were all like, yeah! Like, I would have done anything for this guy.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, what a hold.
Celebrity. Yeah.
Totally. Like, I was like, this man is so funny and so charismatic that, like, I would do anything that he asked for.
That's so crazy.
So, like, whatever he wants this crowd to do, like, I would hang out with him I'd follow him around the country, like a Grateful Dead fan. I was so into what he was doing. I was like, this is amazing. Like, that comedy can move people this way.
Yeah. I think that's so crazy, man. So, what is the next 5 years like for Elon? Is it still sticking to the same plan? You're just trying to get more exposure? Still sticking with the day job? Or, where do you see
I mean, it's funny, comedy, like, you don't realize that you're reaching milestones because it seems like things are moving slowly. You're like, every week I'm doing, a few shows this week, a few shows next week. Maybe you have a week where you don't have a lot of shows. But generally you're like, I feel like I'm kind of in the same rut. And you see other comedians, they're getting TV opportunities and things like that, and you're like, oh, what about me? You get those kind of feelings. You're happy for them because they're your friends, but you're also like, but I want that opportunity also.
Yeah, makes sense.
But then when you look back on every year, you're like, you know what? Like, I actually like did a lot of good things this year. I did make a lot of milestones. I did excel over where I was the year before in a lot of different ways, and so like the goals that I have going forward, which I hope I can accomplish in the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. Which again will happen probably slowly, but like in hindsight.
You will. Stop your language.
Well, what I mean is...
It's the language you're using. I do this all the time, like when I life coach people and stuff. And I'm not coaching you right now, but there's a lot of power in how we speak about what's going to happen. And I think you have the talent and the ability to say that when this happens versus like probably or an if.
Yeah, I guess, well, okay. I personally feel very confident that certain things will happen.
All right.
I like to always hedge my words a little bit so that I don't sound too cocky about what I feel like might happen.
All right.
But I get what you're saying. I don't want to seem like that I'm not confident about it.
Right.
So the goal...
Well, it's just in the way you talk about yourself, but in 5 years...
Anyway, I want to be working at the Comedy Cellar. That's the #1 club in the city. That is, for me, the main goal that I've always had in comedy is to be a Comedy Cellar comedian, because before I was doing comedy, I would go to the Cellar frequently to watch comedians, and I could never have thought that I could ever be amongst those people.
Okay.
and doing comedy is one thing, and doing comedy with those comedians at other clubs is one thing, but like doing it at the Cellar would be like unbelievable because it is really like, the mecca of comedy. Yeah.
Cool.
And so I think that could happen hopefully within the next year if certain things work out.
Perfect.
That'd be great, and that opens a lot of doors for other opportunities because people see comedians at the Cellar, people that have opportunities, whether it's a TV producer or whatever it is. Like if you're working at the Cellar, you get seen, and then you can get other chances in other places. So I want to work at the Cellar. I want to have at least one late night TV set, meaning on one of the late night shows.
Oh, right,
yeah. The Tonight Show would be like number one because it's just got that cachet of the Tonight Show.
Right, absolutely.
But yeah, the Tonight Show, Conan, Colbert, James Corden, any of these kind of shows, to have that's like such a, for the last 40 years, doing a late night set on TV is like one of the main goals of a comedian. And like,
I would imagine, yeah.
It totally validates, what you're doing. Even though there's so many other opportunities now, and it doesn't mean what it used to mean. It used to be like if you do the Tonight Show, let's say in the 80s, then maybe 20 million people have just seen you, and if you do good, like the next day, like you are a celebrity.
Right, yeah.
And all of a sudden you're headlining everywhere around the country, you might get offered a TV show, all sorts of things have happened for comedians who just had a really good 5 minutes at the right moment in time. That doesn't happen anymore. Just entertainment is fragmented.
Yeah.
There's celebrities from so many other places.
Yeah.
The number of views you get from doing a late night show, let's say maybe 1 million people watch it live, and then maybe you get 500,000 on YouTube or something, tops. That's not enough to make you into something huge, but it's still a huge milestone, and it still opens a lot of doors.
Okay.
And it still would be very meaningful to me to have that.
Cool.
So that's another goal that I have, and then hopefully like a half hour or hour special.
Cool, man.
Netflix or Comedy Central, one of those kind of things.
Yeah, man. Cool. It's great.
And to release an album.
Nice.
I have a lot of material.
So would you ever think of doing it independently?
Yeah, I would do it independently. There's also some small labels that work with comedians that I would be able to do it with.
And they would help you with the marketing?
They help with the distribution and the marketing.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a bad thing to work through them. I'm not sure really what's holding me back right now on doing that, because I probably could do it.
Probably. You should cut that. I mean, you could do it. It's not probably. You have the ability to do it. You're just not doing it right now.
Well, the thing is this, like the material is always changing, and so the stuff that I was doing a year ago, even though I'm still doing a lot of, let's say I'm doing like a headline set. Mm-hmm. The headline set I had a year ago and the headline set I have now, a lot of it is the same. But a lot of it are things that like, I would look back and say, oh, I wouldn't have done that joke. I'd rather do this stuff. This new stuff that I wrote is way better now than what I had in there. And so as like a kind of a perfectionist, putting an album out that's like, this is my work, it's out forever, and then you gotta like look back on it and be like, oh, that was a stupid joke, why did I do that?
Yeah, but I tell people this too, especially with the kids when I work with them. I always say, like, if you don't look back at yourself like in the future and cringe a little bit, then you probably never have grown. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to like cringe a little bit at your past self. And plus, it's funny because I think of comedians in the past, like in the 90s, who I thought were hysterical, and then you watch their sitcom from the 90s, and then you recognize all the like political satire and how they mention people who are in the pop culture now. So sometimes jokes lose their momentum because people aren't popular anymore in pop culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's pretty interesting. But I think that would be really interesting to hear your album when you do it. When you do decide to do it.
Yeah.
And and now, because this is really Special Connects and you're my Special Connect, and I've told everyone out there in the digital world how we have connected, what would be one of your like funniest moments between us? Or like even in a group, it doesn't have to be just me and you.
Oh god. Well, we had a funny moment one night coming back from like a house party. I don't want to tell that story.
It's really funny because in my head when I was asking you about this question, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Was that the night when we with Matt and Lauren? Yeah. So maybe even another moment you want to talk about?
Yeah, let me think of another moment.
Well, we could actually talk about the moment. I mean, no one's going to know. We're not going to put out their last name or anything, but...
Okay, I'll talk in vague terms.
Yeah, it's fine.
We were at this house party, and we were all underage, of course, and there's some drinking involved, right? And two of our friends were like very drunk, and so
I did not drink, by the way, because
No.
I was driving.
yeah, Justin was responsible. He was the
I was
driver.
responsible.
So you're driving. We got.
I just want to hear you tell the story.
Okay, so first of all, we have to go pick up your sister who's staying at her friend's house.
Yes.
And so we pull into the friend's driveway, and I think already there, like, our two drunk friends were being a little unruly, but it was like, and your sister got kind of scared. She was like, "What's wrong with them?"
Yes, she did, actually. She did.
And we were like, "Be cool, be cool."
She knew that my sister was younger, and she knew them pretty well. They were acting, we weren't drinking that much. We weren't, like, terrible kids, so.
Yeah, so this was so out of the ordinary for her to see them just being,
Yeah.
pretty belligerent, and it was, so anyway, so she gets in the front seat. Now I'm in the back with these two drunks.
In the middle.
In the middle seat.
Too.
Oh god. And then we're going down this like one lane. There's like it's a 2-lane. What do you call that?
Yeah, it's like
a highway, but there's oncoming cars. It's just one lane each way.
It's one lane each way.
And it happens to be like a notorious place where like the cops are always sort of like around and looking for suspicious activity or whatever. And they're both like, "We gotta pull over. I have to pee or something."
Well, so the first one, it was Matt really who was like, "I don't feel." Remember, he kept up being like, "I don't know, man. I don't feel so good."
Did he throw up in their driveway?
No. Oh, I don't know actually.
I think someone might have thrown up in
That's
that
a
driveway.
total potential. I don't really know.
But anyway, we got out of that scene, and so he was saying, "I don't feel so good."
And Lauren was. I'm sorry because I asked you to tell the story.
But you may have a better memory.
This was the funniest part of it. I just remember you were in the middle, and we were worried about Matt because Matt kept on being like, "I don't feel so good," and then there was like noises coming out of him when we were kind of like, "What was going on?" And then Lauren was making fun of him. Remember, she was like, "Oh, you can't take your drinks, blah blah blah." And then meanwhile, she starts now throwing out on one side of the car. He's throwing out of the other, and then
we had to pull over because they had to pee. At least Lauren, maybe Matt also.
No, Matt had to throw up, I think, or he had to pee or something.
Okay, but
But we had to help him out of the car. Do you remember this?
I don't know. While on the side of the road.
He was on the side of the road, and he must have, like, his sneaker, I'll never forget, his sneakers must have made a sound, like, it sounded like, I don't know, like he, like, pooped in his pants. I remember the two of us were like, "I'm not checking it." We're like, "We're going to tell your mother," we're like, "Can I have her pick you up?" And he's like, "Nah, man, I'm fine." I think he threw up out there. My sister was, like, crying. Probably.
Yeah, so we got him back in the car, luckily. No police had driven by or anything, so we were like, okay. We get back, let's see, I guess we dropped Lauren, we dropped them both off. I was last.
You were definitely.
Your car like stinks of vomit at this point.
Yes. Oh my god.
So we get into my driveway now, and my mom like comes out to like say hi or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, Mom, do you have like any like cleaning product or whatever? Like Justin needs to like clean his car a little bit." And luckily she didn't like ask any questions like why. She was just like, "Sure," or whatever. And then I think you had to go bring it to like get a deep clean.
I did. We had to get it like almost detailed. I think Matt actually gave me money for it.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Someone did, but it was bad. I mean, they both were like throwing up in.
Yeah, it was such a sloppy night. But that's definitely a weird, fun memory of just the carefreeness of being a high schooler.
Yeah. Well, we were out of high school actually. You might.
No.
Well, maybe you weren't. No,
I was still in.
I was.
You might have just graduated.
Well, no, because the car I had at the time, I had to be like 18 when or 19 because I didn't have.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think that was maybe the year that I was a counselor, so I was like 16. And you're like 2 years older than me, so yeah. I was 16. Matt might have just turned 17.
Were you really? Were we that young?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So yeah, so that was really, but it was so funny because when I was asking, I'm like, I guarantee he's probably gonna come up with that, but I would be, you never know what people like remember in life. So
yeah, no, it's always funny. Some people have like certain like very vivid memories of like certain things, and you're like, I don't remember that day happening at all. Like another camp story was, and this it always comes up. Well, for a while it was coming up where, so I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, right? Mm-hmm. But then, like, two friends of mine say, for sure, that I smoked a cigarette at the Orange County Fair while we were in the Ferris wheel.
Really?
Because I was in the Ferris wheel thingy with me. It was me, Matt, and Jason Weinstein.
Okay.
And Jason, like, had a cigarette, and, like, both of them were, like, smoking, but I was like, I'm good, like, whatever. And, like, both of them were like, no, you smoked it. And I was like, no, I didn't. And, like, for years afterwards, they would always, like, say, like, that I did, and I was like, I feel like I was getting gaslighted. Like, yeah, I guess I did. I was selling whatever.
Well, the interesting thing about memory is that your memory is just a memory of the last memory.
What's the last retelling of it, or the last time?
So really, nothing that we actually remember might actually be 100% true. like just neurologically speaking. It's really like memories of memory of a memory of a memory. So.
Yeah, but I know
you would know for a fact.
I know that would be such an important thing for me. For them, it would just be like, oh look, we're all smoking.
Yeah.
Versus me being like, I would know if I had smoked because it's like one of those things as a kid, you know, like
you kind of know
the first time you drank or the first time, you know, whatever. So like, yeah, but I feel like that way also with memory in terms of like if you see like home movies of certain events and then like your memory of it kind of becomes the home movie now and not like what your actual original memory of it was.
Or sometimes, you know, you could hear a story so much that it becomes your story. You know, and like you didn't live it, but you'll like remember it as if you did.
Yeah.
We're weird as humans altogether, but
yeah, we had a lot of fun times at camp. I really those are my most fun years were the summers at camp.
It really was. You know what I actually find to be so awesome about that experience too is just like how close a decent amount of us stayed. You know, like. You know, like we never really lost touch. Like we've always like been friends. I mean, we might not have like seen each other as frequently during like college and stuff, but we always saw each other in the summer for the most part. You know, like with Lauren, Rebecca, you know, different people. It's just, it's so cool. And like when my students actually tell me they're going to camp, I'm just like, oh, like, you're so lucky. Like it was just such a great experience. And I actually think a lot of my confidence and a lot of like the way I believe in myself kind of came from being in camp and my friendships in camp and like having that experience. So yeah it's such a good memory.
Well, yeah, you're like a real leader. Like we all looked up to you so much in camp. So like if I mean I don't know if that was different than how you were in school, but like in camp we were like this guy is like this is a big man.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's
so like that definitely would like build confidence. Like you were like such a great friend, and when you were a fellow camper, and then when you became a counselor, like
which is like
and a group leader, they really move you up fast in that camp. I gotta tell you, responsibility is.
Listen, I was at one point in life, and I appreciate that. But what was really interesting, and for you to bring that up, is part of I started camp. I think I had to be in like 5th or 6th grade, so. By the time I actually became a little bit more popular in camp, it wasn't like the first summer, it was probably like the 2nd or 3rd summer, but that was the summer I actually moved from Queens to Long Island, and I had to find my place with a whole new crew of people, and so it did like kind of help, like say that like, because when you're that age, you're always wanting to be liked, you don't think you're cool, no one thinks they're cool at that age, you always want to be like the cool person, so it kind of did help to kind of feel like one of the cool people, like, in camp, so that I didn't feel, like, so down on myself when it was hard in the beginning to, like, make friends and, like, how teenagers are. So, yeah, it's such a great experience. It's such a shame we can't do, like, a camp as, like, adults. I mean, I know they have camps for adults, but, like, our camp, like...
Like, remember when we went back there that one day before that reunion?
Yeah, me, you, and Alon.
Yeah, and, actually, Sean Bauman also.
Was Sean with us? Oh, he met up with us. He came up with the
Yeah. There's a couple other random people who were, I don't know. I was like, who are these people? They just lived in the camp. Yeah. Now it's like, I mean, I don't know what it even looks like now, because I think it's might have all been torn down or who knows what. But
it's actually still there. It's a community now.
Okay, so it's still...
It's a community.
I like that it's at least maybe still mostly looks the same.
Your old house that was across the street from the camp was sold too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to the people who are, I think, the owners of the camp are a part of it. And,
okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just... just even if it's not at that location, just to be able to have like more reunions of our old friends and like see everybody. But I know that's like hard to do now. It's like
for the ones who are married with kids.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone gets married, and it's like to get them to ever come out and do anything is tough. And like and everyone else just has like all have our own lives, and it's hard. Like I'm always up for going out and doing something because I'm always out a lot of nights anyway.
Right, yeah, right.
So for me, I can go out on a Tuesday to meet up with everybody, but like it's hard to get anyone who is able to like want to do that. So it's But when we do have these moments where like, a few of us can get together, it's always a lot of fun.
But we'll work it out. I was actually thinking of maybe even having something in the house or something. But, it's nice though that I think the core of us, for the most part, do keep in touch,
Yeah.
Keep it going. So.
Yeah, like I texted Matt like last week.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. Fantasy football related. He's in our league.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I was like, I need your $20.
Yeah.
Actually, no, he won. I was like, how do you want me to send you the money? That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
He was a third play. I was the winner.
Nice. Good for you guys.
If you want to come in next year, but if we have an opening,
maybe. Let me know. I honestly don't usually do the fantasy stuff, but who knows?
Yeah.
Might change next year. But I really appreciate you doing this with me. It was so great, like getting to tell your story and also to help influence other people and to be the first Special Connect on Special Connect. So thank you very much, Elon.